My neighbor stopped me at the gate. "Mike, there are screams coming from your house every single day, loud enough for the whole street to hear. A girl is crying her heart out in there, begging for someone to save her." I brushed her off and twirled my finger near my temple. She wouldn't let it go. "No, I'm not imagining it. She's begging, do you understand?" So I pretended to leave, then slipped back in through the rear door and hid under the bed. For half an hour, there was silence. Then suddenly, footsteps. What I heard next nearly made me scream. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit the like button, and tell me where you're watching from. Michael Miller woke up at 5 in the morning, not because of an alarm, but because of a habit that had sunk into his body after 12 years as a machine technician at a furniture factory. Their house on the outskirts of Dayton, Ohio, with its finished attic, small yard, and front gate that had creaked in the same exact note for so many years that he no longer noticed it, greeted him in the evenings with dark windows. His wife, Sarah, worked as a senior pharmacy technician for a regional drugstore chain, and their schedules missed each other so perfectly that a whole week could go by without the two of them ending up in the kitchen at the same time. Michael didn't see that as a problem. In his personal system of order, a man took care of his family through work. The paycheck came in, the roof held. There was enough in the fridge to throw together dinner. The machine was running. It never occurred to him that a running machine could still have gears spinning uselessly inside. Their daughter, Lily, was 15. The changes in her didn't come all at once, like a collapse. They gathered slowly, almost by stealth, and each one seemed harmless on its own. At breakfast, she pushed her spoon around the bowl, slid her mug away, and got up from the table. That morning, Michael caught her in the kitchen doorway. "Lil, your bowl's full again. At least shove a sandwich in your backpack. Eat it on the way." "Dad, oatmeal just doesn't go down at 7 in the morning. I've told you that 100 times. So what does go down?" "An omelet." "An apple. You need to grow. You're living on air. Your grandma would call the National Guard by now." "Dad." Lily smiled a little, and for 1 second, that smile loosened something in his chest. "Grandma still thinks you're a growing boy, and you're 42. I'll grab something at school. The cafeteria food is fine." "Everything is fine with you," he mocked. That word sticks to everything. How are you? Fine. How's school? Fine. A meteor could be headed for Earth, and you'd say, "Well, fine. What do you want? A 3-part lecture?" "At least 2 parts, he said. But she was already gone, and the gate creaked after her. One Saturday, he got up later than usual, walked to the kitchen for water, and stopped outside Lily's room. Behind the door, there was absolute silence. No music, no videos, no voice messages. For a 15-year-old girl with a phone, that kind of silence was as strange as silence in a chicken coop. He knocked. A pause. 3 seconds, he counted. "Everything okay, Dad? I'm just lying here. In silence, no videos, no music. Are you sure you're not sick? I'm alive. I'm just not in the mood." "That happens, you know." His hand was already on the doorknob. One movement, half a second. But instead, he pulled his hand away and went back to his room, deciding his daughter needed space. He thought exactly what a father thinks when he has gotten used to replacing absence with non-interference. She just needs to be alone. A week later, Grace Anderson stopped him by the gate. She lived in the house across the street, an elderly widow with a reputation that had clung to her after a stay in a mental health facility several years earlier. On the block, she knew every yard's schedule better than the neighborhood watch captain, and Michael had once joked that if the CIA had hired her, not a single covert operation would ever go unnoticed. But that day, she crossed the street as if each step took effort. Not physical effort, but the inner kind, when you already know no one is going to listen. Mike, listen to me. From your house, every weekday, like clockwork, I hear crying. That girl is sobbing so hard she can barely breathe, begging for it to stop. Mrs. Anderson, he said, smiling, though the smile came out crooked. After lunch, there isn't a soul in the house. I'm at the factory. Sarah's at the pharmacy. Lily's in school. Maybe the Parkers have their television blasting? Or the cats have lost their minds? The Parkers' television burned out a week ago. You're the one who said they needed new wiring. She said it so calmly that he had nothing to answer with. At first, I thought maybe I'd imagined it too. But I made out the words, Mike, she isn't just crying, she's begging. Who could she be begging in an empty house? And are you sure it's empty? Grace Anderson looked him in the eyes, and he suddenly noticed that her hands were hidden deep in her coat pockets and that her chin was trembling slightly. When was the last time you checked what's going on under your own roof when you're not there? Michael twirled a finger near his temple. It was a rude, boyish gesture, and he knew it the second he did it. But it was too late to take it back. He went into the yard and slammed the gate shut. Her words stayed behind. They lodged somewhere between his ribs, sharp and uncomfortable. That evening, he went upstairs to Lily's room. She was sitting with headphones on, her fingers moving across her phone screen. When she saw her father, she gave him a short, practiced smile. Lil, is everything really okay with you? Dad, that's the second time tonight you've asked me that. Program glitch. So answer again. Everything's great. School is still standing. I got a B on the test. Interrogation over? Almost. He hesitated in the doorway. You and Sam didn't have a fight, did you? I haven't seen her around. We still see each other. Dad, why are you so jumpy? Did something happen? No. Just trying to get my thoughts in order. Good night, Lil. He left with a vague feeling that didn't fit into a word or any specific thought. Later, when Sarah came home from her shift and stood by the coat rack, not even taking off her bag yet, he told her about the conversation with Grace. Mike, are you seriously quoting Grace Anderson now? Sarah unzipped her jacket, hung it on the hook, and every movement carried that efficient exhaustion of a person who has measured out each gesture down to the ounce because there is no extra strength left. The same woman who called the police over the Parkers' dog? Let me remind you, the Parkers have never even had a hamster. They had a cat. Exactly, a cat. The police came because of it. You were the one who drove over with cat treats afterward. Sarah, she sounded different today, not like one of her episodes. Calm, specific. So what? People with those kinds of problems have different phases, sometimes quiet ones. Lily is a teenager, Mike. They're all like this now. Headphones in, stone face, eating every other meal. My niece spent 2 months at that age, talking only to a cactus. She grew out of it. But suppose for 1 second, no supposing. Sarah turned toward him and said it not cruelly, but the way a woman speaks after 12 hours of other people's prescriptions and complaints. Don't build a catastrophe out of nothing. If it's bothering you that much, talk to Lily like a human being tomorrow. But taking Grace Anderson seriously, that's a stretch. He wanted to believe her, so he did, because that was easier. Sarah wasn't cruel. She was wrung out. The phrase, be strong. Handle it yourself, which she had repeated to Lily since childhood, had never been a parenting technique. It was Sarah's own formula, the sentence she told herself every morning so she could get up and go to work. She did not understand that what she was passing on to her daughter was not strength, but loneliness. 2 days later, Grace Anderson approached him again. She looked thinner, somehow, set with the determination of a person who knows she will be taken for crazy but can't stay quiet anymore. It was even louder yesterday, Mike. She was screaming, "Please, stop." I was standing by my fence. I heard every word. "Mrs. Anderson, I know what you're going to say. That Grace has a diagnosis, that she sees things, that it's time for her to go back to the hospital. But just think about it. What if I'm not lying?" She lowered her voice. "You'll never forgive yourself if you don't look. And if I'm just an old fool, then you and Sarah can laugh about it over dinner." "I'm used to that. I've gotten used to it. I'm not going to the police. They won't come out because someone hears crying in your own house. And if they do come, the girl will get scared and shut herself up so tight nobody will ever get through. You have to see it yourself." He stood by the gate, and for the first time he had nothing to say because she did not look crazy. She looked frightened. That evening at dinner, Lily passed through the room with textbooks pressed to her chest, and for 1 second, Michael thought his daughter had become physically smaller. Not thinner, not hunched over, smaller, as if she were trying to take up as little space as possible. The next morning, he performed the usual ritual: tea, thermos, jacket, goodbye. Sarah had left earlier for the morning shift. Lily stood in the hall with her backpack. "Dad, did you turn off the kettle?" "I turned everything off. Listen, it already clicked." "You're starting to forget things. That's just my joints clicking. Get used to it. Go on." "Study hard," she snorted and went out. Michael drove around the block, parked 2 streets over, sat there for 20 minutes, and then returned through the backyard like a thief breaking into his own house. Barefoot, he went up the edge of the stairs where the board stayed quiet. The house was empty. In the kitchen, the faucet dripped. He stood in the middle of the bedroom and crawled under the bed. The floor was ice cold and dusty. Every breath sounded like it was going into a microphone. Against the wall, he found a gray sock that had disappeared back in November, the same sock he had blamed on the washing machine 3 times, and Sarah once, after which she had spent a week leaving socks on his pillow with notes that said, "This one wasn't me." Beside it lay a caramel candy and 3 quarters. If Sarah walked in now, "I was looking for a sock" would sound more convincing than the truth. After 15 minutes, his leg went completely numb, and Michael realized that if he had to get out quickly, he would get stuck. A technician who moved presses heavier than himself couldn't get out from under his own bed. Laughter climbed into his throat, and he clamped it down so hard his stomach ached. Then the laughter broke off. Downstairs, the front door closed. Light footsteps climbed the stairs, entered the bedroom, and stopped beside the bed. The mattress sank. The springs creaked inches from his face. Then the crying began. It was muffled, long held back, and it hurt Michael in his chest as if something inside him were being squeezed. He could see only her legs, school shoes, dark tights, the hem of her skirt. Lily spoke through sobs, gulping air, saying she couldn't do it anymore, that she was begging. Just let her be. Please, just leave her alone. Then she lay on her side, and the crying grew quieter. But that silence made Michael want to rip the boards apart above his head. A tear rolled off the edge of the mattress and fell to the floor next to his cheek. Then Lily apologized to her mother. She apologized for not being able to handle it, for being a burden. Michael could not move. His daughter was not apologizing for something she had done. She was apologizing for her own suffering. No one had taught her that. She had absorbed it on her own. The mattress straightened. Lily got up and went downstairs. Michael didn't move. If he appeared now, she would build a new wall. He crawled out from under the bed 3 minutes later. His leg wouldn't obey him. His shirt stuck to his back. He went down the stairs and saw Lily in the living room. She was sitting on the couch, folded into herself, red-eyed in her wrinkled school uniform, staring at the wall. Then she suddenly stood, walked to the mirror, and said through clenched teeth to her own reflection, "I'm not giving in to them that easily, you hear me? Don't even wait for it." But she didn't have enough strength. She sank to her knees and started crying again. Michael could no longer stand in the shadows. He entered the room. Lily turned, and everything drained from her face at once. The anger, the fragile armor she had been piecing together from shards. "Dad!" One word, small as an exhale. He did not rush toward her. He did not loom over her. He pulled up a chair and sat across from her, at eye level. "Lily, let's be honest," he said, and he was surprised by how calm it sounded. "According to your schedule, you're supposed to be in class right now. Tell me what's going on." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out, only a heavy breath and a tremor. "Easy. Don't rush." He leaned forward a little. "I gave myself a sudden day off today, and I heard everything. Our neighbor came to me twice, worried something terrible was happening in this house. I was an old fool and didn't believe her. But now I'm here, and I'm not moving from this spot until we figure all of it out." Lily stayed silent for a long time, probably a minute, though it felt longer to both of them. Then she started speaking in a low, flat voice, the voice of someone who had held the speech inside for far too long. She wasn't skipping the whole day. She came to school, checked in for the first 2 or 3 periods, and when the elective block started, she wrote a note, pretending it was from her mother, saying she felt sick, and went to the nurse's office. The nurse, buried under the constant rush of students, checked a box and let her leave. Lily had been doing it for so long that it no longer felt like escape. It had become a schedule. "How long have you been living like this? Why are you doing it?" Michael asked. "Because I don't have the strength to carry it anymore. I just can't walk in there." "What exactly can't you stand? Explain it to me." She raised her eyes to him, red and swollen, eyes that did not look 15 anymore. "The bullying, Dad." Lily walked through the halls, staring at the floor. She hid in the bathroom during passing periods, waiting them out. Once she went into a stall and heard girls outside the door talking about her as if she weren't human. She stood there and listened. At first it was little things. They hid her gym shoes, moved her chair, laughed behind her back loudly enough for her to hear. Lily thought, "I won't react. They'll get bored." They didn't get bored. Then came notes with insults shoved into her backpack. Then an edited video with her face passed around the school group chats. Then a fake account hinting that she was the aggressor. Her friends backed away. Not everyone believed the lies, but nobody wanted to get involved. "And you know what the worst part is?" Lily wiped her face with her sleeve. "It's not even what they do. It's that everyone around them sees it perfectly and just stays quiet. They stand there and watch like it's some live show. That show has an author. Who started it? Vicky Hayes. When she isn't in class, I can breathe. The second she shows up, it starts all over again. Wait. What about the teachers? Did you try to talk to someone? Ask for help?" Lily laughed once, dry and short, without a trace of humor. "Of course, I went to my homeroom teacher. Dad, you have to appreciate the irony. Do you know who my homeroom teacher is?" "Who?" "Olivia Hayes, Vicky's actual mother." Michael did not understand right away. The name slid past him like a train outside a window, then came back. Wonderful. And what was this educator's verdict? That her golden daughter could never do something like that. That I was making it all up and just wanted more attention. After that conversation, Vicky somehow found out I'd complained. That's when the real hell started. That evening, When Sarah came home from her shift, one look at the living room was enough to stop her in the doorway. Lily was on the couch, shrunken into herself. Michael stood by the wall. He had not been able to sit normally since crawling out from under the bed. Sarah silently sat down in her bed and sat beside her daughter. Carefully, slowly. "Sarah, sit down. We need to talk seriously," Michael said. "It turns out our daughter has been running home from school every day just to cry in an empty house, completely alone." Lily told the story again, shorter this time, drier, without tears because the tears had run out. When she fell silent, Sarah asked, "Sweetheart, why didn't you tell us sooner? We would figured something out." Lily looked at her father. "You, Dad, are never home long enough to catch. You're always buried in work and calls." Then she looked at her mother. "And you always taught me to be tough and handle everything by myself, so that's what I did. I handled it by myself as best I could." A silence hung in the room, and through it, they could hear a dog barking somewhere outside. Michael did not defend himself. There was nothing to defend. Sarah lowered her head and pressed her palm to her mouth. She understood that the armor she had been forging for herself for years had become a cage for her child. "Lily." Michael leaned forward. "You said the name Hayes. Did this Vicky ever explain why she came after you like this?" "She did." Lily nodded. "She said you once ruined her mother's life, and now it was my turn to pay your old debts." The name finally locked into place, and the back of Michael's neck went cold. Olivia Hayes. Olivia. A girl from his high school, a few months during senior year. Nothing serious to him, but Olivia had thought differently. He had left her at prom in front of everyone, walking away with Sarah, without explaining himself. Not out of cruelty, but cowardice. He had lacked the courage to hurt her to her face. He had chosen a way that hurt 1,000 times worse. "Mike, look at me!" Sarah lifted her head, and there was something new in her eyes, something unfamiliar. "You knew this woman? There really was something between you?" "There was." He did not look away. "A long time ago, and I ended it horribly. My fault." "Now it all makes sense," Lily said. "So she's just using me to get revenge on you." Michael sat across from his daughter and leaned in so she could see his eyes. "Lil, listen to me carefully. None of this is your fault. Not 1 ounce of it. This is what deeply hurt people do when they're sick with resentment. What happened between 2 adults 25 years ago gives no one the right to hunt a child. That is not up for debate. And it ends right now." Sarah wiped her face with the back of her hand and asked, "So what's the plan? What are you going to do?" "Tomorrow morning, all 3 of us are going to the school." He said it briefly, without explaining. But Sarah had known him long enough to hear what he did not say behind those words. He was not going to ask politely. He was not going to negotiate. He was going to find out just how far the cowardice of an adult had gone, a woman who had nursed an old wound for 25 years and handed the bill to a 15-year-old girl for a debt that had never belonged to her. In the morning, Michael put on a clean shirt. Sarah pinned up her hair and took a folder with everything they had managed to gather overnight. Dates of the absences, screenshots of the messages, notes from Lily's account of what had happened, printed pages from the fake profile. Lily walked between them in silence, her hands clasped in front of her. The small, careful way she moved made Michael's throat tighten. From the outside, the school looked exactly the way a respectable school should look. Clean steps, a bulletin board with schedules, office staff behind a front desk. Michael noted to himself that places like that were especially nauseating when you knew what kind of rot was hiding behind the facade. 2 people were waiting for them in the principal's office. Principal Helen Brooks and Olivia Hayes. When Lily saw her homeroom teacher, she recoiled just slightly, almost invisibly. But Michael caught it instantly and placed his hand near his daughter's on the back of the chair. Not pressing, just marking the space. "I'm here." Principal Brooks began in a soothing tone. "Everyone, let's agree from the start that we're here to discuss this constructively, without unnecessary emotion or mutual accusations. I'm more than confident that we're civilized people, and we can find a compromise that works for everyone." You know, Principal Brooks. The time for calm and constructive ended right around the moment my daughter started being afraid of her own phone, Michael interrupted. "Let's call things by their proper names. Lily was systematically bullied. The whole set was there: organized online harassment, public humiliation, and a total social freeze-out. My child spent months pretending to go to school while actually hiding wherever she could and crying while we were at work. And your daughter, Mrs. Hayes, was leading the whole thing. Vicky Hayes." Olivia Hayes straightened in her chair, and for the first time, Michael truly saw her. The same Olivia, only now with a teacher's posture and an expression of wounded dignity. "Mr. Miller, I understand that you're upset, but those are extremely serious and, frankly, baseless accusations. Throwing words like that at an honors student and student council volunteer is unethical, at the very least." "What your volunteer did was not just unethical, it was beyond cruel," Michael replied. "But what's even more serious is that you, as a teacher and homeroom advisor, chose to become blind and deaf when Lily came to you in tears and directly asked for help. Well, you know how kids are these days." Olivia spread her hands. "At that age, they tend to dramatize everything and exaggerate any small conflict just to get more attention from their parents. Look me in the eye and say that again if you can," Michael said. She did not say it again. Principal Brooks, sensing the conversation slipping away from her, opened a drawer and pulled out a worn brochure. "Listen, we have a clear procedure. We are required to act strictly according to protocol. Look here. District guidance for responding to conflict situations in educational settings. We will immediately initiate a special committee to monitor the psychological climate." Michael had time to read the year on the cover. 2009. Principal Brooks, with all due respect, that handbook is almost old enough to vote. It's the same age as some of your graduates. When it was printed, Lily wasn't even in kindergarten yet. In all these years, has that booklet helped one living child in this school? Or is it only useful for covering up the fact that nobody is taking real action? Principal Brooks silently put the brochure back in the drawer and did not return to it. Michael placed the folder of evidence on the desk, opened it, turned it toward the principal, and said, "I understand the mechanics of this conflict perfectly. Mrs. Hayes, you decided to use your own daughter as a tool for settling old personal scores. That is not just a failure as an educator. That belongs somewhere in a psychiatrist's office." Olivia lifted her chin. "Easy for you to talk. Back then, you just packed up and walked into a new life, and I stayed here in this city, picking up the pieces of what you broke. My daughter grew up seeing how her mother had been humiliated and trampled in front of everyone. Do you think that leaves no mark? What happened between us 25 years ago belongs to another life," Michael replied without raising his voice. "And it does not give you the slightest right to turn your child into an attack dog and set her loose on Lily. You are poisoning her future with your old resentment." Principal Brooks cut in. "All right, stop. We're getting lost in personal history. This situation is completely out of control." "No, Principal Brooks," Michael corrected her. "For the first time in a long while, it's finally coming under control. The meeting ended without an agreement and without an apology. Michael did not transfer Lily to another school. He understood that if he simply took her away, Olivia Hayes would stay where she was, and the next victim would be another child. That same evening, he and Sarah started calling the parents of Lily's classmates. The rot surfaced on its own as soon as they asked. One mother said her son had stopped going into the hallway during passing periods. Another said her daughter had begged to switch to a different class. A third admitted that she had gone to the administration months earlier and had received the same empty phrases about adolescent behavior and kids learning to get along. In less than 2 days, Lily's case stopped being a private family drama. It became a documented pattern. Sarah worked right alongside Michael. She called, wrote things down, organized everything. In that effort, there was anger, remorse, and a mother's energy finally finding its way out. Then came the counterattack. In the morning, Michael walked out to his car and found 2 slashed tires. On the fence, written in chalk, were the words, "Stay out of it." Later, an anonymous message came to his phone with a photo of Lily standing alone in the schoolyard and the caption, "Don't wake the beast." When Lily saw the picture, the color drained from her face. "Dad, was that her? Vicky took that. I remember her following me that day." "That's it. The noble approach is over. We're going to the police and we're filing a report for threats," Sarah said. "Fully agree," Michael said. "But first, I need to stop by the store. We're buying a security camera." He drove to an electronics store, bought an outdoor camera, and spent 2 hours fighting with the app, moving it from one corner of the yard to another. In the end, it recorded only the fence and a piece of the road. Grace Anderson, who of course had been watching the process from her window, came out onto her porch and called over the fence, "Mike, why are you waging war against that poor gadget? If you really need someone to watch the yard, I'm a lot more reliable than any electronics. I run on T, work around the clock, and unlike your internet, I never freeze." Michael laughed for real for the first time in days, from the belly. Then he grew serious and thanked her briefly, in a man's way. But she understood. He set up the camera on the 3rd try, with tips shouted over the fence by his neighbor. After that, they took every document to the police and filed official reports. Sarah recorded a video statement, calm, factual, without theatrics, and posted it in the local parents' groups. The video spread within a day. If Olivia Hayes and her supporters were innocent, they would not have needed intimidation. Michael understood that the fear behind the slashed tires and anonymous threats was the best proof that he was right. When the 3 of them entered the school for the 2nd time, the atmosphere had changed beyond recognition. Principal Brooks no longer towered over the situation. She sat tense, a folder on her knees. A representative from the school district was in the office, and he spoke first. "Good morning. We have received and reviewed collective complaints from several families in your class. Based on the facts described in those reports, a comprehensive investigation has already been initiated. At this point, a decision has been made. Mrs. Hayes will be suspended from her duties for the entire period of the internal investigation. As for her daughter, the student will be transferred to another school." Michael listened without triumph. What he felt was closer to the sense that the bare minimum of justice had finally been put in place. He noted to himself that Vicky was a victim too, not of bullying, but of her own mother, who had poisoned her child with hatred and turned her into a weapon. It was not an excuse, but without that thought, the story would have been too flat. Lily sat beside Sarah and looked straight ahead. Something in her shoulders in the way they finally dropped, told Michael that his daughter was breathing for the first time in months without looking over her shoulder. Several weeks later, when the case was already moving through the district and the police reports had been filed, Lily came to her father with a cardboard box. Inside were notes, printed screenshots, drawings in the margins of notebooks, everything that remained from the time of the bullying. "Dad, I thought about it. I don't need this anymore. I don't want to keep it, not even as proof I won," she said. They went out into the yard. Michael brought out an old metal bucket. Lily placed everything inside and struck a match. The paper caught quickly, and his daughter stood over the fire, watching the pages curl and blacken. Then she smoothed the ashes with her palm and said, "That's it. It burned and fell apart. This garbage has no power over me anymore." Michael stood beside her and said nothing. He did not comment. He did not lecture. He did not try to say something wise. He was simply there. For the first time in this story, his silence did not mean absence. It meant a choice. The next day, he crossed the street and knocked on Grace Anderson's door. She opened it as if she had been waiting. Maybe she had been. From her observation post, she could see him leave his gate. Michael said simply, "Thank you. You heard what I stupidly closed my ears to. If not for your vigilance, we'd still be calling it a difficult age." She nodded, put the kettle on, and they sat at her kitchen table, barely talking. Michael noticed that from her kitchen window, she could see his entire yard, the gate, the porch, and even a piece of the neighbor's garden. "Mrs. Anderson, with qualifications like that, you should be working for some private security company instead of getting bored in retirement." "Oh, Mike, retirement has more than enough entertainment," she answered, without lifting her eyes from her cup. "And my security service is volunteer work, but at least my conscience is clean." She paused, then added, "You know, I'm just very glad that this time I didn't have to sit here in silence and listen to a child crying behind a fence, knowing nobody wanted to notice her screams." Michael finished his tea and went home. On the way back, he thought about how much this story had cost him. Not in money, not even in nerves. It had cost him the collapse of an illusion. He had believed presents could be replaced with a paycheck. He had believed that if the roof didn't leak and the fridge wasn't empty, protection was working. That turned out to be a lie. The scariest thing was not learning that his daughter had been hiding and sobbing. The scariest thing was understanding why she had learned to suffer silently. And how many people would have noticed sooner? How many would have gone up against the school? How many would have waited until the very end, convincing themselves that behind a closed door, it was only teenage moodiness? If this story made you think about what we miss in the people closest to us, leave a comment and tell me what you would have done in Michael's place, or whether you've ever lived through something similar. Hit the like button if this touched you, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next story.